back to Starter Marriage, a show where we examine modern marriage from every angle, including our own relationship. I'm Allison Raskin, a New York Times bestselling author, relationship coach, and mental health advocate who has somehow convinced my husband to share all our secrets on this podcast with me.
And I'm John Blakeslee, a former CIA officer turned writer, and I am getting used to people in my real life commenting on things that I said in the podcast.
Oh, yes. What is that like? None of my friends listen to my stuff
It's
anymore.
very odd. It's very odd. I had one friend said that he couldn't listen to one of the episodes because it was too difficult.
Really?
And I had people at school, they bring it up before, like, I did a presentation the other day, and someone was like, yeah, I had no idea, that you went through all those things, and oh my God, thank you for being so vulnerable. And then I was like, I don't know who that guy is who you listen to. I know the guy who's here to talk to you today about this complicated economic thing. But so it is a little weird. I am not used to being so vulnerable with the public in the way that you are. Mm-hmm. So this has been more difficult for me to acclimate to.
But do you see the benefit of it?
Yes, it comes with rewards, but it also comes with challenges.
But like the benefit of like other people feeling like less alone.
Oh yeah, well that's
and that
the benefit.
It's easier for them to talk about their stuff.
That's the reason to do it. Mm-hmm. Even if it makes me feel uncomfortable a lot of the times.
But the praise is nice.
Keep the praise coming.
Speaking of which, please subscribe and rate our show
yes,
on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. That will help a lot. We'll also beg you to do this at the end of the episode as well.
Yeah.
But this episode today could not be more relevant to us specifically and hopefully to also our listeners. We are going to be interviewing therapists Kara Hoppe and Stan Tatkin, who co-authored the book Baby Bomb, a relationship survival guide for new parents.
So this came about because my therapist recommended it to us, and because I'm worried about I'm worried about our relationship come December 16th, the day after our little boy is born.
And what a privilege it is not to be worried about the labor.
No, I mean, I'm worried about that too, but I really, we have a great thing going, you and me, mm-hmm. We love to be around each other. We have laughs. We parlayed it into a podcast deal. We like hanging out together so much. And it's just clear that when this happens, there is a dynamic shift. And so, I read the book and it's really helped me.
I think it's interesting that you are both more excited about the baby and more worried.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I'm kind of like, I think I'm in, as I wrote on my Substack, I'm in my avoidance era.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't feel excited to have this kid. I don't feel connected to the kid. I feel kind of just like not physically well. And also like, oh no, did we make a mistake? But I think the benefit of like doing all of this at, almost 36 is I'm like, probably not. I just know enough to be like, we're adaptable. Like once we have the kid, I'm sure the way I'm feeling will change, and like just like not judging myself for the feelings I'm having and like the mass amount of gender disappointment I'm having, and just like seeing that other people have had gender disappointment, have been ambivalent about their pregnancies, haven't felt that connection to the baby, and then either once the baby comes or after some time, then things kick in and things shift. And I think having this like broader perspective that like how I'm feeling right now is like not at all an indicator of how I will feel 5 years from now is helpful.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you have to give yourself some grace because your body is going through enormous changes right now. I mean, you are miserable most of the day because of all the nausea, but also, the hormones swirling through your body. It's not totally you. Or who you are at a baseline. And so like you gotta, I expect a little bit of that. I'm not dealing with that. So I'm just like,
you're just having a great time.
I'm having a great time. I'm thinking about all the great times me and this boy are going to have together, palling around. I can't wait.
And another element of all of this is being pregnant less than a year after my mom died.
Of course.
And going through all of this, like, without her. It's like, I think if I was, like, having, like, a really joyful pregnancy, that would be weird because right now nothing is, like, that joyful because I'm still, like, in the thick of my grief.
Oh, of course, honey. Of course. Yeah. And that's okay. I mean, I have a different thing, which is that I mean, it's kind of devastating for me, too, that your mom is not around. I would love for her to be here. And in many ways, she was, like, such an impetus for us to actually decide to have a child. I just feel really connected to this kid, and it makes me feel connected to your mom. Like, it's a way for me to feel close to her in a way. I feel like this is something she wanted so much for us, and I feel like this child is like inheriting her legacy in some way, and that's like, I think that's maybe part of my excitement, that it feels healing for me. But you don't have to feel that way ever, or certainly not right now.
You know, like when we roll up to our 12-week scan, I'm not like, woo, our 12-week scan. I just start sobbing in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then I just showed up, like, clearly having been crying. And, like, because I was like, oh, I wonder if, like, people here think something's wrong with my baby.
Right.
But I was like, no, I'm just struggling with the grief of my mom not being able to be at this appointment.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. So, you know, but life is long, and this is just one period of our lives where I'm puking a lot.
Mm-hmm. And dry heaving and belching.
Yep. So honestly, not dissimilar from other
Yeah,
periods.
so like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Well, before we dive even deeper into the topic of the baby bomb, we have to put that aside for a moment so we could do everyone's favorite segment, Marriage Moment. Did you like that one?
Yeah, that one was pretty nice.
High pitch.
I was going to say it was a little higher than normal.
Yeah.
Did you plan that, or did you just felt it in the moment?
I felt it. I just followed my instinct.
That's
which
great.
is never wrong.
Yeah.
Marriage Moment TM.
You can't say that. They're going to come after us.
Who works in the government anymore?
That's
There's
true.
no one to come after us. Marriage Moment TM is the segment of our show where we share a fun and illuminating story, or dare I say moment, from our marriage. And what's really exciting about this segment is that we also share marriage moments from our listeners.
Yeah.
And so that will come in a little bit. But first is my marriage moment, which is that when John and I started trying to conceive, we got some genetic testing done.
Oh, no. Now this is out there. Go ahead.
It turns out that I'm the carrier of 3 genetic issues, but none of them are interesting and need to go on the record.
But my medical information.
But John had only one, and it is called primary trimethylaminuria, also known colloquially as fishy odor syndrome. Characterized by a strong fishy odor in sweat, urine, breath, and other bodily secretions due to the inability to properly metabolize trimethylene.
I hate trimethylene.
So basically, we learned that John stinks like a fish.
That is not what anyone learned. I am a carrier. I do not have stinky fish syndrome.
But you have half of it.
No, I don't have half of it. You're coming, look, those of us if you're out there and you have stinky fish syndrome, hit me up. Let's start a group where we can talk about this.
I think it did say that carriers can sometimes have some of the syndromes.
Dude, you're making this up.
Some of the symptoms. No, and why I bring this up is because it was such a gift to our marriage to learn that you had stinky fish syndrome. Because I'll forget about it for like weeks at a time.
Mercifully.
And then I'll remember John stinks like a fish.
No!
And it will just bring me so much joy. And so thank you for that gift.
It seems to be your favorite part of the pregnancy so far, is that those genetic results.
Yeah, you stink.
People are like, oh, are you gonna find out about the sex? And Allison's like, yeah. John stinks like a fish. Did I tell you that already? Because this is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Happy my genetic history could give that to you.
What's your marriage moment?
Okay, so my marriage moment relates to our guest today because, as I've mentioned on the podcast before, we did couples counseling. And so Allison set up the couples counseling and found the counselor. And I didn't really do much because this was like her thing that she thought that we needed to do and whatever. And she like knows therapists. And so she tells me, hey, we have our first therapy session next week with Joan Sloan. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, okay, interesting, name rhymes. I go to sit down for our first couples therapy session. I'm expecting this like older lady with like a shawl and like cool glasses. Right. No, it's just a guy, and he just like
very handsome guy.
Very handsome guy.
Yeah.
Just kind of like smiling, being kind, starting this out. But I'm like, wow, his name is Joan. First of all, it's a guy, okay, but like it's, whatever, like that's possible. So I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting an elderly, fabulous lady, but then his name is Joan. All right. We go on
multiple sessions. Yeah.
Where I'm assuming this guy's name is Joan. You're sending me calendar invites for Joan Sloan. We're talking about, oh man, Joni made a good point today. Yeah, Joni made a great point. We're walking around one day. He sends us an email. His name is John. He literally spells it the same way that I do.
Well, I have traits of dyslexia. Like I truly each time read it as Joan Sloan. Like right. I wasn't. It would have been an amazing prank, but it actually was like totally unintentional. I truly believe this man's name was Joan Sloan.
It's literally my name,
right?
And then when I'd be like, okay, I guess we're gonna see John, you'd be like, no, his name is Joan.
Yeah, we still refer to him exclusively as Joan in the home.
I stole him as my personal therapist now, and we always call him Joan. And I finally came clean after like a year of being with him. I had to tell him the other day that, like, by the way, like, you're known as Joni, like, in our house. And sometimes it's confusing. So just so you know, like that's
he
who
was
you
delighted.
Are, he was totally delighted. He loved it. He loved it. And he recommended the book that we're the guest that we're going to meet today.
And finally, here is our audience submitted marriage moment, which is also related to pregnancy. Look, they won't all be on theme, but when I can do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Anonymous writes, this might be relevant to you guys as you are expecting. Hopefully won't happen to you. When I was pregnant, often brushing my teeth would trigger my gag reflex, and I would instantly throw up in the sink. This would often be accompanied by me lightly or fully peeing myself, followed by a little cry before I had to rush off to work.
Anonymous or Allison?
I haven't peed myself yet.
That's true.
Where marriage comes into it is how my husband would not complain at all if I was in such a rush that I didn't have time to clean up the biohazard I left behind. And he would clean it up for me. It just reinforced my trust in him and the safety I felt in our marriage. After a very tough newborn phase, 1 month preemie, we're now thoroughly enjoying our parenting journey with a 13-month-old.
Wow.
I will say, John, you don't seem to like to clean up my throw up.
No, I don't.
And the other day I puked in the sink and I said, what do I do? What do I do? Hoping you'd say, don't worry about it, honey. Go into the bedroom. It'll be fine. And instead you said, why don't you just pick the drain out and then wash it?
Can I tell you what happened in that moment? Because I had also read this submission. And so I knew in my head, you got to be the kind of guy who cleans up the vomit. So that's the good, those are the good ones. You're a bad father if you don't clean up your wife's vomit. And so I was thinking that. And so I made a step. You probably didn't see it because you were vomiting, but I made a move to clean it up. And then I caught a whiff of it.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had to vomit.
Yeah, I saw you at one point. It looked like you were going to vomit.
And I was like, you just got to lift out the thing and just throw it down the drain.
And I was able, honestly, that was helpful. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
And then it was pretty easy to clean up.
Yeah. So I'll be by that measure, I'll be an okay dad. Got some good stuff, but maybe he's not always there. He's
He's shouting advice from the other room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's my vibe. Yeah, that's good advice. I wish he was around more. Yeah.
Welcome back to Starter Marriage. It's time to pop the question. This is the part of the show where we deep dive into the main topic of the episode with this week, 2 incredible guests. We are joined by Kara Hoppe, a MFT psychotherapist, teacher, existentialist, and mother with 15 years of experience working with individuals and couples. And Stan Tatkin is the founder of the PACT Institute and an assistant clinical professor in the Department of Family Medicine at UCLA. Together, they co-authored the book Baby Bomb, a relationship survival guide for new parents. And interestingly enough, John's own therapist recommended he read this book in anticipation of our baby bomb. And we said, hey, guess what? We're going to do one better. We're going to talk to them directly on our podcast.
Yeah, no, I brought this to my therapist, John Sloan, and he said you need to read this book because I'm really concerned. We're having a baby in December. And
hey,
thank
wonderful.
you.
Congratulations.
And I've noticed in so many couples that when that baby comes, suddenly the marital dynamic changes. And so I devoured your book, and I said, let's have them on the podcast so that, we can engage with all this.
And now you look cool to your therapist.
Yes, I do. Yeah, absolutely. That I'm in the community now, Yeah,
Is this your, by the way, first child, second?
This is our first child.
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's good timing.
Yeah. And I'm planning to be one and done, especially given how not fun my pregnancy has been.
Yeah, Allison's been struggling.
Yeah, never say never.
I won't, but when I'm throwing up, I say never.
Of course.
Yeah.
So guys, let's get started. So I'm concerned about how our relationship is going to change in or around December 15th of this year. And, why did you choose the title Baby Bomb? Why are we thinking about it in that way? And what motivated you guys to write the book?
Well, Stan and I have known each other for years and years and years. We've worked together. We're colleagues. And anyway, my husband and I had our first child, Jude, who actually his birthday is December 16th.
Oh,
so when he
wow.
said the 15th, I was like,
Wow.
we could have birthday twinsies. But when we had our first child, it was remarkable how much it changed our marriage from the inside out. Things that we had not struggled with, we were really struggling with. And we'd been solid married for 10 years by the time we had Jude.
Wow.
And so I immediately went to the literature and was like, I need help, and started reading about it. And, and Charlie and I got into therapy and we've been, working on things. And then where Baby Bomb came from, I was actually at Stan's house for dinner with our son, who was 9 months at the time, and said to him, damn, this is really a thing. Having a baby really changes your partnership, your marriage. We should write a book about it.
Yeah.
And thankfully he said yes. And and that's where it came from. And Baby Bomb, the title was because I felt like it really captured how grand the change was. It felt like everything, my identity, my husband's identity, our roles, new stress, everything was just changed in some ways, in the most incredible ways. I mean, birth is a miracle every time. And it's really hard. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I'm the type of person who, in preparing for this baby, all I'm doing is reading books and trying to find out as much information as possible. But you realize that most of the information out there is all about how to care for the baby, or the decisions that Allison makes as the mother, and trying to be informed for her and for us. But, it's mostly centered around the baby. And yeah, it did occur to me oh my God, things are going to change between us. And your book has been such a help in that regard. And so, Stan, I'll ask you for your part in this. What I love about the book is how it takes all these like personal and extremely relatable vignettes that Kara lays out, with this psychobiological approach that you pioneered, Stan, where you talk about nervous system regulation and attachment style. And our couples therapist that we had, who's now my therapist, he kind of taught us this, and it's been part of the language of our relationship that's helped us a lot, I feel like. Can you just explain for the audience what it is, and how it informs couples in general, and then we'll get into how it informs you during this really trying time?
Well, just so people know, the term psychobiology we define as study of infant brain development and brain development throughout the lifespan, and studying the autonomic nervous system, which is how we actually regulate ourselves and get along with others, especially in love relationships.
Right.
And attachment, so infant attachment study theory, and also adult attachment. So those three form the sort of the foundation, the developmental theories that is incorporated in PACT, right? So what we're looking at, Kara and I, is the problem that is everywhere whenever we go from twos to threes. So you have a primary romantic attachment system, the only one of its kind, except for the earliest ones, and those are where we're very dependent, and it has an existential piece to it that other relationships don't. And so it plays by different rules, and it's a little bit harder than other relationships, in many ways. So that's a dyad, and it's a very tight orbit that they're operating in. And now you have a third, and now you have a baby. Now everybody wanted the baby, but nobody really understood what that would actually look and feel like when the baby comes. And so what happens ordinarily is that the secondary parent, be it a male or female, can feel displaced. And they no longer feel like they're girlfriend and girlfriend, a boyfriend and boyfriend, or girlfriend and boyfriend, right? And that loss can cause some problems between the couple. And of course, it causes problems between the early bonding with the father or the father figure and the baby. So people don't prepare for this. People don't understand, along with needing to plan, predict what could go wrong, plan and prepare. One of those things is resources, right? People have to be resourced. And today we're doing it in isolation. Never used to, right? We used to do this in communities, in clashes, right? And so it's harder. Therefore, we wanted to educate people ahead of time to protect the couple relationship, because that is what is at the top of the food chain. The couple must remain happy and absolutely safe and secure if they're to actually benefit the child. So that's the point.
Something I wonder about is like, when are you outside the realm of what's to be expected, right? Because everyone will say this is going to be so hard, right? Like, it's going to be disruptive, it's going to be different. But when are you like, oh, actually the dynamic has shifted so significantly, the way that we're speaking to each other, the tension in this relationship, we're in a crisis rather than just like the normal, wave that is like going to be disruptive. Like, when are we approaching that the relationship is actually kind of falling apart?
Well, I'm thinking immediately, my first thought was about safety and security for both partners. And I guess it's when one partner feels unprioritized or deprioritized, or another partner feels abandoned, I would advocate to intervene in more of a preventative way than before the crisis. So if there's a sense of this relationship isn't feeling safe and secure, I'm not feeling heard, I'm not feeling my needs are being tended to, right there, the couple has a problem that they need to address. So I don't know if that answers your question, Allison, about like what flags, when to say it's between what's normal. I mean, obviously conflict is normal, readapting to this whole new terrain of having a baby is going to take time. But during that time, are both partners taking care of each other? Are both partners feeling heard and appreciated and seen. That's what we're wanting throughout this experience to make it less turbulent than it has to.
Allison, are you thinking that, like, already baked into this process of rearing this baby, that there's going to be some degradation of our relationship, and that, you know, that some of that is to be expected, and then, you know, but it can go too far? Is that what you're thinking, or not really?
Yeah, I think there's two things here. You know, one is like when everyone tells you everything's going to change, it can be hard to know like to what extent is still acceptable, right? So if your spouse is suddenly, you know, very irritable and snapping at you, and you're like, oh, well, like we aren't having any sleep. Everyone said this would be tough. You know, like what is reasonable to expect from your spouse during such a period of high stress, and you know, for the if one of the partners gave birth, you know, such a physical toll on their body, especially if they then continue breastfeeding. And then the other element, like that you know, that jumps out at me, Kara, is like that you need to be paying attention to your spouse, and you know, but there is an element if one of the people gave birth, that their body is going through something that the other person's body is not. And, you know, I think sometimes we see in these heterosexual relationships, there's this expectation of like, well, I need my needs met. Why isn't my wife having sex with me 4 weeks postpartum?
That happens, by the way, in same-sex marriages.
Yeah.
That same issue.
Right.
Yeah, go on.
Totally. You know, and so I guess that's where this gets tricky, right? Because it's like, well, they said that I should feel heard and respected and my needs are attended to. And it's like, oh my God, I'm still actively bleeding and I'm a milk factory and I can't even think straight, you know? So how do you kind of like, what are reasonable expectations to have of each other?
I understand what you're saying, and you're right. There needs to be some education to the non-birthing partner about the act of giving birth and the toll that it takes on the body, and breastfeeding or chest feeding if that happens, but the sleep deprivation. I mean, it's also real. A birthing partner is going to be more irritated. There's a whole hormonal experience that happens, you know, after giving birth, and then also after breastfeeding, if a person breastfeeds for a period of time. All of that contributes to needing more support and care. I'm going to translate it that way. So I think that education to non-birthing partners to be there to regulate the birthing partner's nervous system, to tend to that person, I think is really important during this time.
We always recommend that couples, predict, plan, and prepare for what could happen, right? Expect the best, plan for the worst. And there's only so many things you can plan for and predict because you don't know. So the best thing to predict is the manner in which the two of you will have interacted when either of you are under stress. That you can prepare for now, right? You know where you're going to be. And the problem with all of us as a species, when we get stressed, our brain changes, our chemistry changes, and we're more apt to operate as a one-person system, caring less about the other person's interests. And that's where we'll get into fights. So prepare now, knowing that either of you or both at the same time are going to be under stress, maybe in pain. How are you going to mitigate the known of how you always interact? That's what repeats, not the stressor. The stressor just gets you into the same thing again and again. This way you're more prepared, right? You're not just walking in live uninformed when you already know. So that would be the best thing to do, is look back at how you interact when either of you are under stress, and how are you going to plan for that so that you can just say a cue word, or you understand and you know that you'll be able to not overreact and be able to still work as a team. Right? And that's the important thing.
And so one of the suggestions that you guys have is to have explicit agreements about like, yes, this is our agreement in our relationship around greeting each other in the morning, on saying hello to each other at night, that we're always going to put each other first. And you talk about the co-regulation rituals and the co-regulation station. I was wondering if one or either of you can talk a little bit about that, of how, you know, even Allison and I can implement that in our lives. How would a couple go about thinking about doing that, setting that up now?
I mean, all the times that you just talked about, John, were about moments of transition. Leaving, coming home. I mean, those are vulnerable times. For when you have your child, you'll see for them, it's vulnerable. It's so easy to witness on kids, so much more than it is on adults. But we never outgrow that vulnerability when saying goodbye or coming home and wanting to be greeted, wanting to be special. So implementing rituals right now where you are coming together, welcoming each other home, saying goodbye, saying goodnight, greeting each other in the morning. Those are easy, quick ways to bring into your marriage now and ritualize now that can serve you when you have your baby bomb later on this year.
I'd like to say I tried to implement a ritual that John did not like.
Oh my God, I'm getting called out. What did I not do?
Well, every night I wanted to say, I hope you sleep like, and then it was a new animal and a new adorable situation. So for example, I'd say, I hope you sleep like a little fox in a bowl of yarn. And then we did this for a while, and then you said that you didn't like it and you didn't want to do it anymore.
Well, here's the thing, guys.
Okay.
Allison has an encyclopedic knowledge of animals. Encyclopedic. And so I'll start saying I'll come up with this animal late at night. I'm reaching for an animal, and she'll be like, you used that last week. That's not how that animal would snuggle up to a soft thing.
Ask AI.
Yeah, right. I'm going to need ChatGPT to come up with, just give me 100 adorable animals. You know what? Maybe hey, Claude or whatever is going to save our marriage.
Yeah.
You know, I will say that that when we did couples therapy, I sometimes miss it because our therapist had us sit like knee to knee and actually have the therapy looking at each other.
What a concept.
Yeah. Right. Because like normally you see in the movies and TV that the couple is kind of sitting cross-armed on a couch and the therapist is adjudicating some problem between them. But it was really powerful. And like, I had never had such a powerful moment, even since in a therapeutic setting, as I did in one of our, like, we only did like 8 premarital counseling sessions. I had one of like a huge revelation about myself just in this moment. And Allison had a huge revelation about me. And like, I think, honey, you were like, not to call you out here, but like, I feel like you were just like tearing up sometimes at the beginning of the session.
Yeah, I couldn't handle it. I cried every time.
It was so intimate. And I actually I was thinking about it on the drive in this morning. Like, I would love to implement something like that where we just kind of take a minute where we're just like total eye contact and just talk about whatever with that level of intensity.
May
once a week.
I interject here?
Please do.
Okay, so you bring up a very important point. You know, with our schedules and what we're doing now, we're addicted to screens. We're never really here, right? And that's not how it used to be. We used to hang out. We used to shoot the breeze. We used to have pillow talk at night. And so if you want to keep the feeling of being in love and falling in love again and again, there are brain hacks, and you have to do these things in order to feel, right? One of them is eye contact, gazing, just looking, but really present, and saying something sweet. We know that both partners will express a lot of oxytocin. Oxytocin is turning out to be a predictor of happy marriages. And so, but you have to do it. It's behavioral. Yeah. And you'll both get, through the amplification effect, you'll both get a tenfold, drug infusion of dopamine. But also to spend times throughout the day, either in joint attention, enjoying something like the baby, right? It causes you to look to each other because you're using the baby as getting excited and joy, and you throw it to each other, and you'll get that expansion. You'll get that multiplication, right? That is how you keep love alive. There are things that we have to do, behaviors that we have to install, because once courtship is over, we fall into automation, and we take for granted the fact that we're with a stranger, not family member. And we stop looking, we stop paying attention. In fact, we store an image of our partner's face for weeks and months without really looking. That's how lazy we are.
That's what happened with my bangs the other day.
Wait, I want to piggyback on something though that Stan just said about the gazing into each other's eyes of the amplification of the oxytocin that's released. I want to say also the same is true during really challenging moments. I'm thinking particularly of shortly after my son was born. Breastfeeding was hard for us. It was hard to get a latch. And it was really stressful because it's my body. I'm trying to do it. I'm failing. I'm just like, it's a hard moment for me as a human being. And my son's crying. He's hungry. I can't tell you the relief it was during those moments to just look at Charlie, my husband, and see his face and the love and care in his eyes during those moments. He couldn't breastfeed for me, but he could be there just with a look.
Yeah.
And it would fill me up to be like, okay, just let me try that latch again, So I just like during vulnerable moments that gazing into each other's eyes is also really powerful.
We fall in love through the eyes as a species. We're visual animals. Everything we do is through the eyes, including error correcting. So also, if you're in distress, you want to go face to face, eye to eye, directly across each other. Anything else could get you into a fight, actually.
What do you say?
No, I think I'm not that worried about us. And maybe that's me being naive, but I think part of it is that we've already been through a lot of terrible things in a way that other couples maybe haven't had to deal with before having a child. So both physical and emotional. My knee surgery in 2022 was brutal. And, John had to dress me and take care of my body in a way that that sort of, I think, primed me to understand what's coming for us in terms of I have no shame around you seeing me in a certain way, or and I think I've seen your ability to be a caretaker in that way, and then emotionally adjusting to the death of my mother, so what you were saying earlier, Stan, about how, the only thing that you have to go off of, which is something I totally agree with, is how your partner acts in, other times of stress, not the exact same scenario, but what their stress response tends to be like. I feel like we kind of know that of each other. And we have already had the opportunity, unfortunately, to kind of work out some of those kinks. So I definitely don't feel like I'm going into this experience as unaware as I would have if we hadn't been through those tougher experiences.
I think for me, the concern is that people have all kinds of partnerships, but Allison and I's partnership, Allison's my best friend. Allison and I, we love to hang out together. We're constantly joking around. I feel so at ease with you. And I think it's the same way. And, when this bomb goes off, there's going to be a third. And suddenly we have this other friend who can't really contribute a lot and, and is going to require so much of our focus that I do worry that even just the casual playfulness of our friendship is going to be strained. And I'll throw this back to you two both to comment
on it, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll throw this back to you two both you're welcome to comment on our relationship, but also, one of the provocative things that you say in the book, I think it would be provocative to a lot of readers, is that the baby is an outsider. And that really struck me when reading it, because you don't read that in many books. And the baby is a third in a sense. Could you talk about that and why it actually helps the baby to think about the baby that way?
So in a primary attachment relationship, as a species, human primates are diatic creatures. We form dyads, we pair bond within herds, right? We're not lone wolves.
Yeah.
And that's a tendency. Not all people do this. There are polyamorous oriented people, all different choices for alternate relationships. But generally speaking, we tend to move towards dyads. And so when thinking about the outsider, baby's not really an outsider. That's only in the context of the couple your happiness, your safety and security must always come first, because everyone and everything depends on that, right? If you two are not operating well, everything and everyone suffers. So that's the idea behind that. You put your oxygen masks on each other first, always, because the two of you have to be right as rain at all times by design. This is a design issue. This is not natural. You're not going to be naturally this. And that's why it's very nice that you do get along, but plan for your devils. Don't plan for your angels. Devils we are if the conditions are right. And that's what you have to predict, right? What are you going to do? How are you going to rein each other in? How are you going to stop each other from doing damage to this union, right? That's really important. And one last thing is that there is no decision without loss, and there is no addition to one's life without loss, right? Mm-hmm. You are going to lose things, right? You're going to lose a sense of youth, maybe a sense of, for you, my dear, your body, a sense of freedom for both of you, a sense, right? All of these things, come with great additions to your life. So don't deny that. Understand you're going through both. This incredible joy and a whole different orientation that you wouldn't experience until you fell in love with this infant. But also at the same time, you're losing things. So, go easy on each other.
I love that. Acknowledging that a birth is both an addition in your life, but also a loss.
I found a lot of grief in early parenthood that I was kind of surprised about. I wasn't expecting that because we were so wanting our son so badly. So I was surprised to be really grieving who I was and the relationship that we had before him and all the endless time that we had to shoot the breeze and to hang out and stuff. I was sad about that ending, as well as just overjoyed by Jude's presence.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say one other thing to piggyback on what Stan just said about taking care of each other, or the idea of the baby as the outsider. It's just you're stronger caring for each other. You offer so much more to your child or your children when you're taking care of each other. You're more resourced. You can be more patient and loving to your child when you're being cared for by your partner.
You have a duty to ensure, again, by design, you have to build this thing. You're building a new culture bespoke to the two of you. You have an obligation, a duty to be happy in the relationship, right? Can't control other things. But that can be done by design and agreement, all of that. But most couples don't even think about that. Businesses do, bands do, dance troupes do, any team does, because they have a common purpose and a common vision. And that's important.
Honey, can I ask Stan a question? I know you have a question on the tip of your tongue, but it's just that this was a good moment for it, which is that I love economics, and
that's what you're gonna.
You weren't expecting that.
Steamroll me over for.
I'm sorry. And I love modeling. Well, the reason why I love economics is because economics is the study of behavior and how people behave in certain scenarios. And when you're modeling economic behavior, sorry, we lost half our audience, but a lot of times you talk about things like game theory. Like if one person does one thing, how does
By the way, this we're talking about game theory.
And I was just about to ask you, Stan, do you think about game theory in relationships?
Absolutely. In a free and fair union of equals, two adults coming together, hopefully based on terms and conditions. Love gets you in the door. It doesn't keep you in the room, right? You have to have shared purpose, always and forever. Without having social contracts between the two of you that protect you from each other, you're setting yourselves up for danger, right? You don't want to do that. That's most couples. So these are easy to think about. These are easy based on what has gone wrong. You both are supposed to build something in for the next time. So you mitigate that, right? Most people don't do that. They just walk right in again to the same live situation, and then they become automatic because they're threatened, and they get into these loops, threat loops. So all of this is doable if you both focus on prevention. That's what this is about. This is prevention of what we know will happen. That doesn't work. Not good or bad, right or wrong, healthy, unhealthy. It's really about what will work with human beings in a union of this kind, free and fair, of equals, and what will never work. It has to be win-win, or you're causing downstream trouble that will get you, right? It has to be based on constant fairness, justice, as you both experience it, and sensitivity to each other's sensibilities, to be able to make this not only long-lasting, but safe and secure and happy as you go through time.
Yeah, it's so interesting because marriage, having a baby, these things are such romantic concepts in a sense that you sometimes, it's so, I mean, Allison, so much of your work is about this, is you can get swept up in that kind of romanticism and forget that, like, fundamentally we're people in an agreement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the thing that we haven't touched on yet is everything we've said so far is under the assumption that both partners are mentally well. Mm. And I think, as someone who...
Are you like accusing John or something?
No, I mean, I have had OCD since I was 4 years old, and getting pregnant, a real fear of mine is postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety,
A lot of women feel that.
Really like losing control of my own brain, because there's been periods in my life where I was much less mentally stable than I am right now. And obviously, like we did touch on, like with the hormones and the trauma of birth, like what if I really have a mental decline? Or something I think isn't acknowledged a lot is that men can also experience postpartum depression. And so what happens if, we do all this preparation and then one of us has a real mental health crisis following the birth of the child?
So let me just set the record straight. There's not a him or her, you or the other problem here. There's a human primate problem. There's the human condition. So you're no different than anybody else. We live in a world where we are using diagnoses as a cudgel sometimes to otherize people or to worry about ourselves. This is the nature of being human. Most of our problems. So you have OCD. Well, a lot of people do. It's an amplification of the human condition, by the way. And so it's not a problem. The problem is not being prepared. The problem is being naive. The problem is not understanding how bad we are at love and how good we are at war, right? There's a reason for that, because we have a survival instinct, and that survival instinct is not discriminate. As soon as our blood pressure and our heart rate goes up to a certain level, we're altered. And we can see our loved ones as threats. So just understand, remember, we're animals, and we all have the same problem here, right? Now you're worried about what will happen. I don't know if any pregnant woman that isn't, right, worries about what could happen, right? Everyone worries about what could happen. The thing is that the two of you are prepared for anything that could happen, right? You're so durable and so good at this that you're all weather. And no matter what is thrown at you, the wheels don't come off. That's what I want you, or we want you, to prepare for and to plan for and to prevent in the future, and not be like most people, thinking that everything is going to be okay without this. Yeah. Because you're in charge of everyone and everything, right? You're the leaders.
And I also think that, like, understanding that there might be a need for added resources, right? Like, if one of us is feeling, a clinical level of depression, like a significant shift in our mental wellness, that's something that has to be really proactively addressed. That, we're both already medicated, but making sure we're on the right medications, and, that this can be a part of the journey of our mental health rather than, oh no, now we're stuck here forever, right? Like, I think one of the benefits of having struggled with my own mental health for so long, like, I think if I were to experience postpartum depression or, God forbid, postpartum psychosis, or, you know, like the levels of things that can happen, there would be a sense of like, okay, this makes sense. Like, I have to treat this as if I had gotten some other kind of illness following, you know, what just my body just went through, and not feeling like this isn't going to be me forever. And I feel like that's something we can do for each other is, you know, address it head on, but also keep in mind that like, okay, this, like, of course, this happened and we're going to get each other back on track, rather than accepting like, well, this is our new normal now.
Yeah, what I hear you, sorry, Stan,
No,
what I
no.
hear you saying, Allison, is like destigmatizing or taking the shame away from struggling. I think that is beautiful. And I want to also say I think after birth, after having a baby, it's really helpful to notice it in the other person. You might not see it in yourself. You might be having some postpartum anxiety or depression or psychosis, something happening, and John might notice it.
Right.
So I think like laying the foundation there or John, you might experience a drop in your mood, and Allison, you noticing it. I think laying the foundation for, we're going to look for this in each other, because it's really hard to go through when you're going through such a tremendous change, then to be really tracking your own mental health. You need each other to do that for each other. So I would suggest making an agreement with each other about that.
And I think we've done that in the past, which I think helps like lay the groundwork that, you know, that we are able to bring like, hey, I've noticed this is getting a little worse, or hey, I've noticed like, you know, you're in a heightened state. So just, I think that's such a beautiful point that, you know, we might not have the capacity to see it in ourselves the way we normally would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't forget to predict things instead of letting them come when you could have predicted and planned. Right? All things can be handled if you do it together. You think, if this happens, we do this. How about that? If that happens, we do that. Right? It'll lower your anxiety because you'll feel prepared.
One final question on this is, when you're going through this and there obviously is tension in your relationship, how should you handle talking about that with the other trusted loved ones in your life? Right? Because, you know, I'm not someone that thinks that like you can never tell your safe people like what's going on in a relationship, but like how much should you be, you know, keeping between the two of you versus like looking to your support system to help you navigate?
Important question.
Yeah. I mean, immediately my first thought, I don't know, Stan, what you're thinking, but I would imagine, Allison, in all those conversations, you're considering John. As you're going to your support system. You're going to your support system to build yourself up so you can navigate things better with John, not to make him a third and other him and just vent about him. But you're like, we're struggling and this is happening and I need support. And he's in your mind at that time. And the same would go for you, John, too, that it would be okay with Allison for whatever you were saying, that you were saying to your support family or friends and family.
This is a design question, right? Exactly what I was saying. So this isn't for either of you to decide. This is for both of you to decide what is either good, best, or right. So say you both, right? But you both have to fully agree. Otherwise, there are downstream effects that are bad. So you can have it any way you want, but you think it through. You know, how far should we go in being able to tell other people things that could be private to you, right? Do I have your permission? Is that a good idea? What could happen? What could go wrong with it? So think it through. Policies prevent fights, right? Because again, it's prevention. But you come to the idea together. You don't go by what other people say. This is your show. This is your gig. This is it. You're the designers. So just make sure you're designing with each other and that you're building this together, not unilaterally. That's a mistake.
Right. One of the guidelines I give my clients is you only want to bring it to people that are supportive of the relationship, right? That are rooting for the relationship.
You two decide the rules.
Yeah, but I just,
Yeah.
thinking about it, like the people that like they're not already suspicious of one of us or, has some hidden agenda of no one should be married, like can be a helpful guideline. So this is our final question that we ask all of our guests. What is a fictional couple that you think should have gotten divorced and why?
Yeah, Stan and I were discussing this before. I'm thinking the Ratliffs from White Lotus 3.
Wait, which one were the Ratliffs? Oh, the rich couple?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, tell me more.
Well, I mean, they definitely have their work cut out for them. Their couple therapist has their work cut out for them after the bomb of not having money. I would suggest that they would, if they stay together, that it's built on something that's more authentic than materiality.
He does consider murdering his entire family because he's not going to have money.
It's like a little bit of a red flag.
So,
good idea, by the way.
So yeah, it makes sense. That checks out.
That's also one of those interesting scenarios where I actually think that if he had maintained his wealth, they would have continued to have a happy marriage. And it sort of like speaks to that, like these external factors can happen and the delicate balance of what is working then explodes in a way.
Allison, do you think they had a happy marriage?
I do, yeah. I'm someone that thinks that marriage can take so many forms for so many people, and what people are looking at for their marriage is different. Like, would I want that marriage where my husband kept that much from me? No, but I think she did. I don't think
that's a good point.
I don't think she wanted to know what he was up to or what was going on. And, there were a lot of moments of tenderness, of checking in with each other, of like in the first episode, I thought, do they even like each other? And then it was like pretty clear, like they did, I just think that their expectations for marriage was much more gendered and traditional than what I would want my marriage to be.
But what there wasn't in that relationship was safety. So like he didn't feel safe to come to her and be like, without money, do you still want me? Or I'm in trouble and it's putting us, he instead internalized all that because he didn't feel safe with her.
But that's once that happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that, like, leading up to it, I think he liked that he was in charge of everything, that he, like, took care of himself and the family. Not that this is, like, so healthy, but I think that they both would have said they were happily married, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. But I also, Allison, I'm going to challenge you a little bit about the checking in, because what about all the episodes of him on the lorazepam just completely checked out? And she was just like, I think one time she's like, you okay? When it was just like all
but
those
again,
scenes,
this is post the bomb. Like,
him losing his money.
Of him losing the money. Yeah, I'm saying like before that crisis, I think they both would have said they were happily married. But then but they didn't have a strong enough foundation to survive that crisis.
Yes.
That's my radical take.
Well, they certainly raised some interesting children.
That's the thing. There are a lot of people happily married in marriages you would never want.
But that's why you make this one to what you both want.
Exactly.
Forget what other people want.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us.
So much, guys.
We really appreciate it. Where can people follow you and find your work?
I'm on Instagram, Kara Hoppe, and just come to my website, karahoppe.com.
And I'm Stan at thepactinstitute.com, thepactinstitute.com. And I'm Dr. Stan Tatkin on pretty much every social media platform.
Amazing. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. And best wishes. When's the due date?
December 15th.
Be thinking of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What do you think after hearing all of that?
it's going to be in my head for months that we're really good as a species making war, but we're not so good at being in love. I love that. That's like got to be on a bumper sticker or something.
You could probably make one.
Yeah. If there's a demand out there, Well, I'm
That's
ready
the
to
merch from
hawk,
Starter Marriage.
to hawk bumper stickers. Don't tell Stan. We're just making millions off Stan Tatkin bumper stickers. But no, I think it was great, and I think maybe it means we should sit down and have come to certain agreements. Like, if certain things happen, how are we going to handle it?
Mm-hmm. I don't have like the brain space to do any of that now until I turn my next book draft in. But check in with me on July 22nd, and we can just come up with a beautiful plan.
Hey Siri, remind me on July 22nd
Yeah.
to make beautiful plan with Allison about being married.
And the rest of our lives.
Okay, it's set.
Perfect. So that day I'll have the brain space to come up with our policies. I think we do have a lot more policies in place than you realize that we do. Because here's the other thing, honey. I'm a relationship coach.
Okay.
So
So you're going to coach us through this hard time?
well, no, but like I'm hyper conscious of relationship dynamics.
Right.
And like I talk to couples and individuals all the time about like how to navigate tough things. So maybe like there's an element here of like I feel like less worried because I really feel like we have the tools.
But I feel like, which I hope you're right, but you don't love like intense intimacy.
No.
And like when we looked into each other's eyes in couples therapy, like that was like a lot for you. And even like, you know, you don't have the brain space right now to do it. Like that's a thing that is sort of draining to you. Like, and I think that's something I really crave, is like looking into each other's eyes and like being present with each other. And I worry that the baby's going to take up so much of our time that it'll be like that. It'll be the, you know, call me in a month and we'll have a little more time, as opposed to building in, you know, 1 minute a day where we are connecting.
No, I'll do that. Fine. We could talk 1 minute a day about our plans. I just think we have a good amount of time. I mean, the baby's not coming till December, you know? But yeah, like I do make efforts even when I'm not in the mood to.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, like I don't, like I think that even when my mother was dying, I was like checking in with you and trying to be present and part of our relationship, even when I didn't really necessarily have the capacity to like do that so easily.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying that I think it's more of a lift for you to do that. Like that is something that is, for me, it's not, you know,
right, but I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I know that. And so I know that I still need to do it.
All right.
Unfortunately. All right. Okay. We have reached our final segment, which, you know, has taken the internet by storm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a game called Stay or Leave.
Yeah.
I present you with a scenario of something that might happen to us based on the episode's topic, and you decide if you should stay or leave, because marriage is a choice, not a trap.
That's great.
That's our new tagline. Rather than divorce exists for a reason.
We're getting better.
Which you pushed back on me for. And I guess I said this in one of our other episodes, and a very lovely viewer suggested that this would work better as a tagline.
And that viewer is correct.
So now, moving forward, that will be the official tagline of Stay or Leave. Look, this is like a dynamic show. We're learning from you. You're learning from us. We're influencing each other. Leave a review. Okay. After our baby is born, everything in our lives is turned upside down in a shocking twist. In order to reconnect with each other, I say that we have to spend 1 hour every single night doing that weird thing actors do called the mirror game, where they shadow each other's movements and words. 60 minutes straight, no bathroom breaks. Every single day. Would you stay or leave?
That sounds quite onerous.
Mm-hmm.
but you don't realize how much I would probably enjoy that.
For 60 minutes?
No, obviously not. But for 20 minutes or so, I think I would enjoy it.
But what about the next 40?
Well, I would, look, I would suck it up. I like that stuff. I really like that.
Oh, yeah. You probably loved improv warm-ups. You would eat that shit up.
Which is like obnoxious to be a person who really likes that stuff, I guess. But I like really connecting, like making eye contact with other people. I like that stuff. So yes, 60 minutes is pretty terrible, but I'm sorry, honey, but you're stuck with me.
Ugh. There goes my plan to get rid of you.
And now we have an hour every night of playing insufferable actor games.
Well, we did it. We made it to the end of another episode.
We did it.
Congratulations.
We're still married?
We are. And I didn't burp that much throughout it.
Right.
Just a little in between cuts.
You don't have to share this. I wasn't going to share it.
If you enjoy the show, it would mean so much to us if you subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts, if you rate and review the show. It really helps other people find it. And if you want to submit your own marriage moment, TM, you can send it to startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com. That's startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com. We love getting your marriage moments. We also love getting topic suggestions. So please write in. One of us will absolutely write back to you.
And if you're interested in Allison's work, check out one of her books. I think, Conversations About Modern Marriage, on sale wherever books are sold. And also, No.
Come on, you can do it.
And also Save the Date. I almost said I think again. And also Save the Date, a rom-com novel that just got released.
And it's pretty fun if you're looking for like a light, fun summer read.
Yeah, it's great.
I think there's some goofs, some laughs.
A lot of goofs, very funny. It moves. It's quick. You know?
You can also watch a full video of this entire podcast on youtube.com/justbetweenus, where you can see us making eye contact.
Intensely.
Thank you all so much for listening. We will be back on Monday with another brand new episode of Starter Marriage. Our woof.